Welcome to this video. My name is Tochi and I am so glad you are joining me today. We're going to be discussing the differences between poly and open relationship. If that sounds like it's of any interest to you, please keep watching. Also, if your heart so desires, please give this video a thumbs up and share it. Subscribe to my channel and put on the notifications so you know every time I put up a video. It helps with the YouTube algorithm, and that way more people get to see my videos, which I would love. So we've been conditioned in a number of ways, including the ways in which we view love and relationships. So I understand that monogamy is, to a lot of folks, is the traditional default, most understood way to navigate relationships. Recently, I put out a very short video of my partner and I in which we both express identifying as poly, and with that video came a lot of questions. So this video is going to be answering some of those questions. The video wasn't about anything. She just wanted to record her first time, our first time having a persimmon, and then it turned into what this 1 minute video became. Hi, welcome to my channel.
She got this big ass ring light. I'm about to take a picture for you. Send it to you.
We got a ring light. Oh wait, do we eat the skin?
Mm-hmm. That's fucking good. That's good.
We are both poly, we're both pan. This is so good. Who am I to? And our relationship works. Wow. To be poly and pan and have a working, healthy relationship. That's nice.
You like it?
Yeah. I don't know what else to do with this. Do you have anything else to say? This video really only scrapes the surface of the depth of layers that exist within people and relationships. So take this more as a brief information session and less so an in-depth analysis. So first we're going to talk about, I want to see if I can like put the titles here. Let's see if I can edit the titles in. First we're going to talk about the description of both relationships, and then we'll get into the questions, like the 3 top questions that people had. There are 2 types of relationships that I'm aware of, one being monogamous and the second being non-monogamous. In the universe of non-monogamy, there are multiple planets, but we are going to be discussing 2, those being poly and open relationships. An open relationship is a type of relationship. It describes the way a certain type of relationship is navigated. You have to be in an open relationship. Essentially, it's being open to the option of other partners, whether that be romantically, sexually, intellectually, however those other partners present themselves, in a non-committed, casual, not necessarily deep connection type of way. An example of this would be Will and Jada Smith. They described their relationship to be an open marriage or an open relationship. Now, being poly is not only a type of relationship, but it's also an identity. So it's a verb and it's a noun. If we were to break down the word polyamorous, poly meaning many, ama meaning loves, and us being the nature of something. So someone who identifies as polyamorous would be someone who is characterized by or able to have many loves or engage in multiple committed romantic relationships. And then poly as a relationship type is a relationship in which those involved are engaging in multiple committed romantic relationships. And these relationships, these connections are not surface level. These are deep, non-casual connections. So if I were to summarize that, it would be an open relationship is a type of relationship, and poly is an identity where someone can identify as poly, or it can also be a type of relationship. So 3 of the main questions that I got after folks saw that video were, if you're poly, does that automatically mean that you're in a poly relationship or that your relationships are poly? How does one create boundaries in non-monogamous relationships? Can you cheat in a non-monogamous relationship? So I'm gonna answer those now. If you're poly, does that automatically mean you're in a poly relationship? Quick, simple answer, no. It does not. No. Identifying as poly just indicates that you have the capacity to have many loves. It does not automatically mean that you are in relationships in which you are engaging in multiple committed romantic partnerships or relationships or connections. Like any relationship, it takes a lot of work to be in one, let alone more than one. And so just because you are able to have love for many people does not necessarily mean you always have the capacity to foster multiple committed romantic relationships. How does one create boundaries in non-monogamous relationships? The thing about monogamous relationships is it's almost like there is, I guess my view of monogamous relationships is that there are almost like pre-understood set rules that exist that both parties know they have to adhere to in order to respect and uphold their commitment to that relationship. I have a lot of thoughts on monogamy, but I can't get into all of them in this video, so I'm just gonna leave that at that. With non-monogamous relationship, those rules turn into boundaries, and they're different for everyone. And I say rules in quotation marks because for me, rules feels very rigid and set in place, not up for discussion, no room for change, very limited. And rules can be broken. Rules are explicit and they govern and they regulate. Boundaries, in my opinion, feel lighter, and boundaries are like limits, less so set in place, set in stone, no room for discussion, and more so open to the idea that these boundaries or these limits can be expanded upon or can be like opened up in some way. An example of both would be a rule in a monogamous relationship would be it's me and no one else in any capacity. In a non-monogamous relationship, a rule could be if you happen to have a deeper than surface level connection with someone, discuss it with me so we can unpack how you feel prior to you building on that connection. No 2 relationships are the same. Whether you're in a monogamous relationship or a non-monogamous relationship, dialogue and communication is very much so necessary to keep that relationship healthy and thriving. Some conversations may be uncomfortable, they may be embarrassing, you may find it to be weird, strange, you may not even necessarily understand all the details of how you're feeling or why these conversations need to be had, but it's important to be in a relationship in which you feel comfortable talking to your partner or partners about what's going on. It's important to be in a relationship with folks who you can be transparent and open with. Vulnerability allows for deeper connection, and regardless of what type of relationship you're in, I think having a deep connection with your partner or partners is very important. Third and last question, can you cheat in a non-monogamous relationship? And the simple direct answer is yes, of course. If you and your partner or partners have created boundaries within your relationship and those boundaries are disregarded or disrespected or ignored, that's what I would consider to be cheating. For example, expanding on the previous example that we used, if your partner finds out that you've been building with someone you had a connection with prior to telling them, like you agreed, I would consider that cheating. People tend to equate open relationships with polyamorous relationships with folks who are just monogamous and messy. So this notion that it's not possible to cheat in non-monogamous relationships comes from the idea that non-monogamous relationships are just unkempt monogamous relationships. And I just want to clarify that there is a difference between those three things. So the 2 points I want to end with are, there's no real manual for how every relationship should look, or be structured, or be navigated, or be understood. We're all made up of so many different layers: our experiences, our understandings, our wants, our needs, etc., etc., that it's quite literally impossible for two relationships to be the same. What works for others might not work for you, and what works for you might not work for someone else. Regardless of how you identify or what type of relationship you're in, whether it's romantic or even platonic, you should be in a relationship where you are respected, where you are heard, where you feel safe, and where your values are cherished. I hope this video was informative and that you learned something new. Thank you for joining me in my journey of self-awareness and trying to figure out what this life is about. I'll see you in my next video. I want Gisela to see that I'm wearing the top that she gifted me, and I love it, and it's one of my favorites. And the only place I can wear it is indoors at the moment because New York is freezing.